Knowledge, the basis of our society, is fundamental in all human progression. We worship knowledge, devoting ourselves to obtaining it as if our lives depend on it. All the while, we almost entirely ignore the negative effects that come hand in hand with working to achieve a higher understanding. Students of all age slave away multiple days a week at school trying to achieve the highest grades possible, and as school comes to an end, we go home and do our homework because the work and information that we attempted to absorb during the school day wasn't enough. Once we graduate school, we join the workforce and attempt to understand our profession to the best of our ability. But on the same hand, our work becomes an obsession. This leads to multiple negative mental and physical effects, such as stress, sickness, depression, fatigue, and extremes such as suicide. While I do believe that school and work and almost all of society's ideals are great standards to try and live up to, it would be extremely ignorant to believe that the intense pursuit of knowledge does not come with known drawbacks.
Mary Shelley's novel Frankenstein serves as a warning against the pursuit of knowledge and explains how exploring the unknown is dangerous. Shelley also warns that the path you take to achieve your goals may cause you great loss and suffering. This is often the result of being blinded by your aspirations and being a slave to your passion.
Victor's inability to control his monster leads to many different problems throughout the novel. As his monster flees the scene of his creation, Victor, while he feels relieved at first, becomes paranoid and fearful of his creation. Victor's fear and paranoia is confirmed when he reaches Geneva to find his younger brother, William, found dead by the monster's hand. Time passes and Victor, no longer in Geneva, is approached by the monster, who confesses to the murder of young William and is asked to create a second horror in order to prevent any further crimes. His depression and delirium from his grief makes Victor fear for his life, and as he accepts his new task, Victor becomes extremely stressed on top of trying to get over his grief and depression. Victor no longer can enjoy the pleasures of life that he had once worked so hard to regain after the loss of his younger, innocent brother.
Furthermore, Victor has to battle his morals and evaluate the ethical ramifications of using his knowledge. Shelley makes this evident when Victor debates his decision whether or not to complete the second monster. Victor wants to prevent further death and torment, but was now about to form another being of whose dispositions I was alike ignorant. She might become 10,000 times more malignant than her mate. This further complicates the situation and stresses Victor out. As Frankenstein's monster continues to grow and learn about human interactions, his perspective on the world changes greatly. The more he learns, the more he realizes how his goal to fit in with humans is unachievable, causing him to become more resentful and bitter. In the next video clip, information designer Tom Wojcik describes how meaning is created in the brain.
We make meaning by seeing, by an act of visual interrogation. The lessons for us are threefold. First, use images to clarify what we're trying to communicate. Secondly, make those images interactive so that we engage much more fully. And the third is to augment memory by creating a visual persistence.
The monster's encounters with humans, such as the family he observed and Victor's brother, prove to him that humans will never accept him. The experience with Victor's brother is especially interesting as the boy was young and, according to the monster, was a blank slate the monster should have been able to speak with.
The monster states that sorrow only increased with knowledge, which makes sense because as the monster learned more, he became more and more dissociated with human culture.
During the monster's discussion with William, the monster is able to physically see how disgusted the boy was with and cemented the thought in his brain that all humans would never accept him.
In the pursuit of knowledge, there is multiple negative physical effects. Between sickness, frailty, fatigue, and the physical effects are made pretty evident within the novel of Frankenstein. His stamina had significantly decreased as shown in Victor's homeward journey. All in all, the negative physical effects of the breakneck speed that was Victor's pursuit for the answer to natural human weakness left Victor weaker and more frail than ever before, leaving a feeling of irony as the scene of creation comes to a close.
As said by Victor, by very slow degrees and with frequent relapses that alarmed and grieved my friend, I recovered. Victor, after the creation of his monster, had fallen extremely ill due to ignoring his personal health and his rampant pursuit of knowledge. Knowing his wretched mistake by creating his hideous monster, Victor not only felt ashamed of his actions, but his depression and illness had driven him into a self-destructive cycle in both the mental and physical side of his health. Mentally, overcommitting yourself to learning can lead to chronic stress and anxiety. Victor is subject to these effects during his rigorous studies and work. He explicitly states, I have lately been so deeply engaged in one occupation that I have not allowed myself sufficient rest and had trouble sleeping, often passed the night wretchedly. According to TED Science health and technology expert Madhumita Murgia states, chronic stress can affect brain size, its structure, and how it functions, right down to the level of your genes. This causes a loss of control over emotions and a decreased ability to concentrate. Throughout Frankenstein, we see how dangerous knowledge may be to oneself. Frankenstein's monster becomes more and more frustrated and angry at life as he learns how he is unable to fit in with humans. Victor also shows mental and physical weaknesses from his rampant years of study that are very common in today's society.
From his intense fever and never ending stress to his depression and sadness, all of which can be seen in today's student body and workforce. During routine checkups, teens are now given surveys to see if they are depressed, and the United States has one of the top suicide rates in the world. All in all, the novel Frankenstein acts as a warning to the neglected drawbacks that a higher understanding can lead to. Especially in today's society, as people become more aware about emotional health, it's extremely important not to stress yourself and not overwork yourself and only commit to a reasonable work schedule and a reasonable amount of labor.